is going on, world? Welcome to 168 Hours. I'm your host, Ben Steele. I recorded 22 episodes of this podcast through my officer training prior to the military Marine Corps deployment to Okinawa, Japan, and through the craziness of military life and the demands of the unit, I had to put it on pause. But with my military time coming to a close here, I'm pumped to be able to start it again. So I was able to interview some pretty remarkable people, from a Bronze Star recipient to Olympic athlete, Ironman champion, musicians, and just other people who really have impacted my own life and mentors to me. My goal for this podcast is to have honest, raw conversations with these people to find out what they do and how they use their time, 168 hours per week, in order to find success. Not only to find success, but happiness, better lives, and how they positively impact people around them. So I hope from this and from this content that each of you can get some value for your own life to put you on that trajectory of success for whatever you want and whatever you want to achieve. I'm pumped, and I hope that you really enjoy what I'm putting out here. So in today's episode, I was lucky to interview Dave Reed, who is one of my closest mentors of the last few years and closest friends. He served nearly 20 years in the United States Marine Corps. He's a man with great insight, wisdom, vast experience, faith-centered, family, and I think no better way to kick off season 2 than a conversation with him. So I hope you enjoy it. For sponsors, in season 1, I had sponsors per episode. I haven't gotten that far yet, honestly. So to support, just share with friends, drop a like wherever you are, or a comment. And if you want to financially support, you can go to bensteele.us, where I sell my photography prints. That's an option as well, and any support is appreciated. So sorry for the long intro. I know that we got a lot of ground to cover, as it's been a while since I've done one of these podcasts. So I'll jump right in here. This is a conversation with Dave Reed. Thank you again. One quick note is the intro-outro music was actually produced and written by Dave. He wrote it while we were embarked on a military ship in the South China Sea. He's an amazing guitarist, and he wrote it for his father. So without further ado, this is Dave Reed, 160 Hours. Caffeine isn't kicking in for me.
It's
quite
kicks
yet.
in instantly for me.
It's a good problem to have.
For other people, maybe not.
So welcome.
It's good to be here.
Staff Sergeant Reed. I will call you Dave
Please call me
for
Dave.
purposes of the podcast.
Yes.
Appreciate you doing this with me.
I've been actually looking forward for this for a long time. As soon as you mentioned it, I was like, that'd be awesome to be on, and you made it happen. We both made it happen.
Well, this morning I was listening to Joe Rogan on my run, and he was with Tim Dillon. He was talking a little bit conspiracy. So.
Oh boy. What's his buddy he's got there? Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo. Did he have Eddie Bravo on there?
He didn't. Not
No.
today.
Oh.
No. But I know you like conspiracies. We'll maybe steer clear for the most part.
Yes.
Unless you want to get into it later. We'll see.
It depends. I'm looking towards positive things and positive vibes, man. Sometimes when you get in conspiracies, it gets a little people worked up. I don't like talking about that.
I agree. Here, lean into the mic just a little more, just so we're safe. So before we jump in, so I sent you some show notes of things I wanted to talk about. Before we jump into a little of the history background of your life, what brought you into the Marine Corps, your family, etc. First, just tell the listeners or viewers, where are you at right now? Like, what's a snapshot of your current life?
Well, I'm currently serving in the Marine Corps, obviously. Getting ready for retirement here in November. So something I've been looking forward to and also dreading at the same time. Married, father of 4. I've got 3 daughters and 1 son. My daughter's getting married here next month. Actually, it'd be this month, 28th of August, so looking forward to that. From Michigan, originally. Been married for 13 years now. Been with my wife. Life's great living here in California, and as soon as we're done retiring, it's probably going back to Michigan, going back to the family.
When you say retirement, Dave, what does that mean? So, like, what amount of time and what does it take to retire from active duty military?
Well, 20 years. 20 years is considered retirement. Of course, you can go further than that. You can go up to 30 years, but 20 years for me, and that's active duty. So for people who have never served, you've got active duty, you've got reservists. So things break down a little bit differently. But for active duty, of 20 years of active duty, what that means is I'm 41 now, right? So I'm going to be retiring here in November. I'll be 41. I'm going to call it semi-retirement because I'm not really truly retiring, right? Although I probably could, I'm not going to. I think I'd go out of my mind if I didn't do anything and just kind of lounged around the house. I think that wouldn't be good. So I'm going to probably get into something else and start a new adventure. But that means I'm going to get basically 50% of whatever my base pay is, right? We're not going to get into the numbers here, but it's 50% of your base pay. Ultimately until you die. So that's the government's way of kind of saying, hey, thank you for serving, and we're going to reimburse you.
You mentioned doing something else. What do you want to do? Do you have any ideas since we spoke last?
Yes, I have so many ideas, but the problem is trying to pinpoint which one I want to do. I like helping, I like talking, I like teaching. So it's like, okay, well, you could go down many ventures if you wanted to do that. But one of the things I've focused really on is family and the importance of family. And I know that's something we're going to get on later on here on the podcast and talking about. Family is really important. And I think, excuse me, when you're away for 20 years is a long time, right? When you're away from family, when you're away from things right? And you're out venturing the world and experiencing new things, what you always come back to is your roots. You try to come back to your roots. I'm trying to. And I think being away for 20 years, you really realize what's important. And at the end of the day, it's family. Family is what's important. And I've realized that, and it's time for me to start focusing that way. Whether that means, back to the retirement thing, if I just take a time out for a little bit and just focus back on the family, with the wife and kids, and just, I don't know, go out and take a family trip and go see the country with them, I think that would be great. And then I'll focus on, getting a job and continuing on. But there's so many ideas that I want to do. You heard me before the podcast asking you a lot of questions as far as, what does it take to do this kind of stuff? I think this would be a great platform to either inspire, talk, bring on people with different opinions, and I think that this would be a great outlet for that. I'm really interested in this kind of thing. Who knows? Might be that. I might be the next Eddie Bravo. I don't know.
It all started here.
Joe Rogan. I know you like Joe Rogan a lot. I watch some of his clips, but I'm focused on Eddie Bravo. He's a crazy dude, but he's got a lot of insight on things and different opinions. And Joe Rogan, same thing. So I'm slowly starting to get on the Joe Rogan bandwagon, but I really wasn't a fan from the get-go. But I see myself starting to lean towards that a little bit.
One thing I will say that I appreciate about his platform is he's open-minded and willing to talk to anybody, which I appreciate. So the value of, getting on guests with maybe, both extreme and moderate viewpoints and able to have a conversation with them that is cordial and doesn't, get aggressive or anything is really rare in today's society, where I feel like the first reaction when anyone disagrees is to get offended or to try to cancel or and unfortunately, like in my life, personal example, I feel like a lot of my life has been in those environments where people believe so strongly one way that they're uncomfortable to discuss the alternate. And I think we could all value from conversation, and that the Marine Corps, I'd say a lot of people I've met in the Marine Corps are very open-minded to discussion, which is really cool. I think the institution itself obviously is an institution that believes one way, but luckily I have met a lot of people like yourself, other guys we've worked with that are open to conversation, and I've learned a lot from doing that.
It's funny you say that, because what's your favorite catchphrase? It's okay if we disagree, right? I think that's imperative to anyone having a conversation, debate, whatever side you're on, different views of opinions. I think that if you and I can have a discussion and you and I can walk away without getting triggered, right? That just shows our maturity level. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't have that maturity level. And like you said, they get triggered, right? You can't have opposing opinions and discuss them openly without somebody getting triggered right now. And it's a shame. It really is. Personally, and that's one of the things I do. If I'm talking to someone and I say, "Hey, what about this?" and they're like, "Well, what?" I can instantly tell this is not going to go good, right? Neither one for one of us. So I'm probably just not going to engage. I'm not going to engage in this conversation because I can clearly see that you're maybe not on that maturity level to where you can have these kind of discussions, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong. It just you're not at that level yet. And I think that once people get to that level, then a lot of problems and a lot of discussions you can have across the table, whatever they are, really can get somewhere instead of just, two people getting angry or fighting or whatever it is they do.
So a question I wanted to ask you, and we're semi-headed that way, so let's hit it now before we get into the background. So I wanted to talk about, because honestly, Dave, I really respect your input. Something you told me when I first met you, one of the days, maybe the first time I met you, when I came down to motor transport, which was where we worked together, is that something along the lines of you would either become a fatherly figure to me or drive me insane, essentially, is what you said. Something along those lines. And I would like to say you definitely became the first. And I value your input and insight. And so, in your opinion, with the, pretty vast life experience that you've had, because the military does give you a lot of different experiences, what do you think is one of the critical issues with our current society? The general public, what's something that you see people are challenged with?
I don't even have to think about that. I can just spit it out. Accountability. The big A word. You hear me use it at work. You hear me is accountability. Just people accountability for their actions, accountability for what they say, accountability overall. People today like to point the fingers. It's always somebody else's fault instead of looking within and saying, well, how did I contribute to this problem or this issue? Did I contribute to this problem or this issue? And if the answer is yes, it's just taking accountability for that. Too many people try to, point fingers. And I think that the moment that somebody can take accountability for their actions, humble themselves and be like, yeah, that I contributed to that or whatever, and just own up to it and then take corrective actions for that. Until people can do that, we're just going to continue to just spiral downward. I think the accountability piece is really probably on the forefront. That's what I think.
How do you enforce that or create that environment?
Well, it all starts at home, right? And again, I don't want to open up too many doors, because you can sit there and open up another door, open up another door, open up another door. I'll use myself as an example. I always say that kids have a better chance, and again, this is just my opinion, kids have a better chance of being successful when they have a good foundation at home. And what do I mean by a good foundation at home? I mean just parents are together, right? Not a split home. I came from a split home. I know what that's like. But I've learned from that, right? And I think you can learn from that, but the parents have to teach accountability, right? And if it's the kid's not learning accountability, the Marine Corps is perfect. If the kid doesn't learn accountability at home, say he comes into the Marine Corps, you and I both know the Marine Corps is going to hold you accountable more than any other place, any other job that's around, right? They're going to hold you accountable. That's not the time to learn. You should have already learned that as a child, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're going to struggle as an adult now trying to learn accountability. That's just my opinion. People may disagree with that. That's okay. It's okay to disagree, as Ben would say. That's where I think you can. It should be taught. You can learn it. I'm not saying as an adult you can't learn it, right? It's just probably harder. You should probably learn that as a child. That's just my opinion. What's Kermit the Frog do? Does he do one of these? That's just my opinion.
Is that what he does?
Yeah. You ever see those memes where he just got the coffee mug up and he's like, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think definitely with the growing up aspect, background's a big part of who we are, and it's difficult to teach those lessons later. We see that in the military, definitely.
Definitely.
So, but that's a big problem to fix. That's a hard problem to fix, right?
It
How
is.
How do you fix the home? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what's the divorce rate now?
It's high. I mean, my parents, they split up.
Yep.
How old were you when your parents got divorced?
I think it was probably, I was just a baby, maybe one or two.
Okay.
One or two when my parents split up. I have great parents, and they did their best.
Sure.
My father and my mother both did the best that they could. I just, as a child, of course, you always wish the outcome would have been different. Like I wish my parents were together, and that's just not the truth of it. However, you can learn from that. So it's like, okay, for me, for example, I try to learn from other people's mistakes. So I'll watch somebody, do something bad and go, okay, well, I probably shouldn't do that, right? My parents, when they split up and growing up bouncing from home to home, because I used to do that. I don't know if you did this as a kid, but I would bounce.
I was older when they
you were
split
older.
up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really didn't affect me.
What I would do is I would bounce from parent to parent, right? Whichever one would let me get away with more, right? I was playing the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd go to my mom, because my dad was too strict, or my mom was too strict, so I'd go over here. I just bounced back and forth. And I just realized that if I have a family of my own, that it's not something that I want to do, right? So I'm trying to do my best to be a good dad and to be a good husband, right? So I don't have to put my children through that. And relationships are hard. It's not easy. If you're married and your marriage is easy, are you really married? You know what I mean? Because it's like it's tough. It's what you put in, right? You have to put in that effort. And again, I teach back to the accountability piece. I teach my children to, if you say you're going to do something, do it, right? That's me holding you accountable. Don't say, well, I want to do gymnastics, Dad. Okay, cool. You're going to go do gymnastics. Gymnastics isn't fun. I don't want to go anymore. Tough. Go. You're going, right? Because you made that commitment. Mm-hmm. Follow through. It's me holding you accountable for your word. So that's what I try to do. But to your original question, what I think's wrong with society, that's it right there. It's accountability.
So let's jump into your background. You mentioned Michigan. Was that your whole childhood?
Yes.
Essentially?
Yep. My whole childhood. So I grew up in a little town. I was born in Manistee, so it's just a little bit south of Traverse City. So I don't know. People from Michigan usually when they do this, they hold up the glove and they point. That's where I'm from, right? Grew up most of my time there, from kindergarten all the way up to was it middle school, and then went to high school up in the UP, Upper Peninsula, in Iron Mountain. And big difference. You're talking going from city. City is not Los Angeles City, right? That's a big city for somebody like you, but for somebody like me, a city's like Traverse City or Michigan. That's kind of big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then going from that to the UP, which it's nothing but trees. I graduated, I think, with 32 kids in my class. Very small. K through 12, you're playing sports. It's like, oh, you're going to play football? Cool. You're playing offense, defense, and special teams. So it's like, you don't have like the AA schools.
They big into hockey up there? Or
we didn't. Our school was so small. The only thing we had was basketball, track and field, and football. I think, yeah, that's it. We didn't have anything else. Yeah, it's that small. So going from a city to redneck country life, big difference. But I enjoyed it. And I actually think that helps me as an individual instead of just living in one area and just knowing that culture and not going out. Plus the Marine Corps, and you know this too, man, running around, going all over the world and traveling and seeing different cultures and things like that. It just adds to your growth as a person. You understand things a little bit better. But yes, UP is where I graduated from, and when I retire, that's where I'm looking at going again.
Really?
Yes.
You got the wife on board?
No, absolutely. The wife is not on board. She's from Hawaii. I met my wife in Hawaii when I was stationed out there the first time, and she's grown up her whole life in Hawaii. So imagine bringing someone from Hawaii to Alaska, right? They're gonna be like, "What? No." They see snow for the first time. They're bundled up like what's that little kid off of the Christmas Story? Oh, that's my wife through and through, 100%. You want to see something funny? Watch her go try and break ice on the driveway when she's helping me out. You can't even move. She was doing that in Cadillac one time and just I was laughing. Thought it was hilarious. But yeah.
Good childhood though. Sounds like.
Now,
I know that's a broad term, but
if my family's listening right now, right, they would disagree with what I would say. I don't think that my childhood was that bad, right? Now, some of my family members would be like, "Oh, baloney." Again, going from a split home, I was put in some situations, and don't want to throw my business out there, but I was put into situations where it was challenging, right? But it's gotten me to where I'm at today. Instead of looking at the negative things, right, I try to look at, okay, positive stuff. What are some of the positive things that can come out of bad things? Focus on that more instead of looking behind and looking in your past and sitting there going, well, this happened to me, this happened. Who cares? Who cares? You're here right now. You're a better person for it. Keep pushing forward. I can't stand when people look in the past and they stay in the past instead of just looking forward, man. You don't even know where you're going if you're constantly looking back. Just keep looking forward, man. And if you fall face forward, at least you're still moving forward, right? Don't go back. My childhood was okay. My childhood was all right. I can't complain. I didn't grow up rich. But I wasn't living out of a tent either. So, you know what I mean? I realize that there's people out there that have it way worse than me, and I acknowledge that. And that's why I'm not going to make a big deal about, oh, poor me. I'm just not going to do that. So it was all right. It was all right.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a wise answer. Some perspective.
Yeah, it's just try to look at
it is what it is.
Yeah, just try to look positive, man. It's just try to go forward, man. Just I'm tired of people going backwards and like, oh, well, you remember this? You remember? Who cares? It's behind me, man. Mm-hmm. It's behind me. It's one of the questions. Not to jump ahead, but one of the questions you were going to ask me, right? Is if I ran into my 18-year-old self, man, what would I say? And this is going to sound crazy. I wouldn't say a damn thing. First off, that'd be weird. Hey, me, I'm you.
You'd be like,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's true. What would you? So you'd be like, what is that? Like Back to the Future?
Yeah,
You just go back though. You
Yeah.
wouldn't say anything. You just watch from a distance.
I would, because I'd be look at that stupid haircut. Because you should.
Would you have a flat top or what?
Well, I had back in my at 18, no, but like I remember when I was like 13, I had a flat top with these lines on the side.
Oh, the
right?
racing
Oh
stripes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had some wild stuff.
Getting all the girls, probably.
Well, yeah, I wish.
No comment.
So the 18-year-old me, I wouldn't say anything, and here's why. Minus the financial stuff, like, hey, invest in this, invest in that. Hey, when you hear of Bitcoin coming up, buy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, right? Because I wouldn't change anything right now. I'm so blessed with what I have in my life. I'd be stupid to sit there and say, well, I want this or I want that. I already have it.
Mm-hmm.
I have it. I have a wonderful wife. I have a wonderful family. I have a roof over my head. I always have food in my stomach. What else do I need? I don't have a fancy car. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need any of that. So everything I have, everything I need, I already have.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say anything to myself. I might say maybe this. Hey, don't wait till you're 21 to join. Probably join when you're 18. The Marine Corps, right? Just so I could retire a little earlier. I'd have been 38 instead of 41, right? I'm old.
Wow.
I'm old. In Marine Corps years, I'm old. I'm hurting. My body hurts. So yeah, I probably would have said that. But other than that, I wouldn't have changed anything, man. What would you say? What would you say to yourself, the 18-year-old Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would change much, just because each individual experience is, you're the sum of all your experiences, right? So they all contribute, but there are definitely some things I would, I didn't necessarily take the easiest or quickest route to where I am now.
Yeah.
It's kind of that wrong road philosophy. Sometimes if you say you're trying to get to point A or a final destination, and you have to go down, you come to a fork in the road, you go down the wrong road, and you realize that's not necessarily the right road, and you're able to turn around and find the correct road through that. But if you do that 4 or 5 times, well, your journey's maybe a little bit more difficult, takes a little longer than it needed to.
What did you learn, though?
But you learn a lot. Yeah, exactly. You learn a lot. So yeah, so I guess I wouldn't really change anything. I think talking to 18-year-olds today that are like me, I can definitely give advice as far as, one advice I would give is, and I give this to people, like people who hit me up who want to start a business or people who want to serve in the military. Surprisingly, I actually, through a few blogs, I've told you this, but through a few blogs I've written, I get hit up quite a bit about that. And my advice is never do it or don't do it for either account, but my advice is always put in the legwork and do the research before you, move ahead necessarily. Because I think a lot of people do this, they get an idea in their mind that they want to do something, and it's a good idea, but maybe they don't go about it the smoothest way, and maybe there's multiple options within that idea, and they don't take the best option because they don't do the legwork and the research. So that's what I guess an advice I give someone is, hey, that's a good idea, do that. But before you do it, maybe look into all the different options so you are set up for success. You know what I mean? Because that's when you want to do something, I think the work isn't the fun thing. It's just doing it. But you got to put in the work. And like, for example, if I want to launch, I'm going on a rant, sorry, but if I want to launch a company, right, and I want to sell a product. So in college, I owned an accessory brand that was very mildly successful, and we sold neckties, bow ties, suspenders, pocket squares. We did some shirts, kind of random things. I lived in England, and I liked their accessories, so I started this. Now, I lost my train of thought. Now, when I started it, hindsight 2020, I can tell you that those product categories are not the best products. High margin, not necessarily huge demand. People don't wear them every day unless you're like a banker, or even then people don't wear them every day anymore. And so hindsight 2020, what I should have done is I should have made a list of all the products that I think, had potential, made a list of the pricing options, and then gone out and done interviews with people, done surveys, done more thorough research to see, okay, what product is the winner, and then after that legwork, maybe hit a home run instead of like a second base hit. So that's not always a solution, but I think in any decision in life, if we put in a little bit more legwork, have an open mind, expand the options, you can still do what you want to do. You can still start that company. You can still join the military, but you can set yourself up for the best possible success, not go into something naive, but with, an educated mind.
Oh, how much research do you think I did joining the Marine Corps?
Probably not a lot. I didn't do a lot either, honestly.
None.
Yeah. So tell me about that. When did you join?
So,
21?
I joined at 21. So, all right. So September 11th. Actually, let me go back before that. The recruiters always used to come to our school, and I always used to clown them. I remember sitting there with a couple of guys from school and just be like, hey, look at that guy. Never joined the service. What's wrong? Yeah. No. I'm making money. I was a welder. I was actually a welder before I joined the Marine Corps. I worked at Systems Control. We made Boss snowplows. They're still in existence. I think they're bought by Toro now. But so I was doing that for about 3.5 years, and September 11th happened. And I remember sitting there welding, doing my thing, and every once in a while you'd flip your helmet up and you just kind of look around. And I used to listen to CDs, right? While other people there working used to listen to the radio. So I'm listening to CD. I think I was listening to some like Megadeth or something. I don't know, Metallica. And I look around and I'm just something's off. Something's off kilter, and I just couldn't put my thumb on it. So about a couple hours later, we go on our break, and I remember going out. There's this area where it's like kind of a smoke pit, smoking area where people used to hang out. And I remember going out there, and I just started hearing them talk. They're like, man, I can't believe I heard, planes crashed into the building, and we're under attack. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, man, turn your radio on. So I pop the CD out, and I turn the radio on, and I'm listening to this go down. And I just remember I was there, but I wasn't there. I just remember like, wow, like what's going on here, right? I'm listening to this go on, and I remember going on the lunch break, and we go back out there, and I'm eating my sandwich, and this guy looks at me, one of the guys I worked with, and he's like, man, that's crazy. And I just uttered it, just kind of under my breath, but I was like, I'm going to go join the Marine Corps. And he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go join the Marine Corps. We get out of work at, I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I get done with my shift. I drive right down to the recruiter's office. I kind of knew where it was at in the shopping center there. And I walk in, and there's like the recruiter and then a bunch of kids, right? And I stand in the doorway, and he just looks up at me, and he goes, what do you want? And I was like, I want to join the Marine Corps. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Go away. And he starts doing whatever he was doing at his desk. And I just remember standing there. I didn't go anywhere. And he's like, what do you want? And I said, I want to be a Marine. And he's like, get in here. And he whispered something to the other kids, and they all left. Well, knowing this now as a recruiter myself, those kids that were in there weren't kids that were, they're kids that were joining, but they were poolies. They've already enlisted, right? They're just waiting to ship out to boot camp. I just thought, me coming in, wow, look at all these kids that want to join today, right? Because of this. I didn't know any better. I was naive. So he kicks everybody out, sits me down, and we start going through the interview process. And I remember, fast forward, we do the interview. Of course, I want to do it, blah, blah, blah. He sends me down to MEPS. And funny story, did I ever tell you about how I negotiated my contract?
Mm-mm.
All right. So I go down to MEPS in Milwaukee. That's in Wisconsin.
What's MEPS for people?
MEPS is the Military Entrance Processing Station, right? I think I nailed that. I've been off recruiting for a while. It's a place where you go down there and you get qualified, physically, mentally, morally. They screen you down there. They want to make sure that you're able to do it. And for those people who don't know, it is harder to get in the military than it is college. Right. I always on recruiting duty, I always used to hear them say, well, if
depending on the college.
Yeah, of course. If college doesn't work out, then I'm just going to join the military. And I always used to think, it's kind of harder to get into the military because it's not just, hey, are you physically fit? It's, are you morally, mentally, and physical? Right. Anyway, I get down there, I pass everything. And this was in, I want to say, this was in September, October. I want to say. I'm trying to remember 20 years ago. It was October, I think. The recruiter puts the contract in front of me on the desk, and he says, "Here, you're gonna leave." I don't know. It was like February or March or something like that. It was a long time. I said, "I'm not signing that." He's like, "What do you mean you're not signing it?" I was like, "That's too far out. I want to go now." And he's like, "Get out of my office." He kicks me out of his office. Of course, I'll leave the bad language out, but it was pretty bad. And he kicks me out. I'm sitting there for an hour in the waiting room going, what did I just do? Crap. Mm-hmm. I'm probably not going to be a Marine now. And all of a sudden you hear about an hour later, he's like, "Reed!" I'm like, oh, I run in there. He slaps another contract down. He goes, "All right, you're going to leave in December." And I'm like, "December what?" I forget what it was. I was like, "I'm going to miss Christmas." It's still too far out. He takes everything on his desk and he throws it right off. And he just laid into me for 15 minutes. He's like, "You're never going to be a Marine. Get out of my office." Kicks me out. And I'm like, crap. I'm expecting my recruiter, who's now retired Master Sergeant Jones, to come in and be like, "Reed, what are you doing?" Anyway, he calls me back in and he goes, "You're going to leave in November." And I said, I'll take that. And I signed it. But I went down to MEPS expecting to be an infantry, right? So that's the original contract that I chose. Well, since I was manipulating the system, they were like, "Well, cool, you can leave, but you're going to be an open contract." And for people who don't know what that means, that's just whatever the Marine Corps wants to make you. Whatever's available, that's what you're going. And I remember telling Gunny Jones at the time, my recruiter, I remember telling him, as long as I'm not a cook, if you tell me I'm going to be a cook, I'm packing my bags and I'm going to Canada, right? You'll never see me again. I'm going to Canada. I jokingly say that, but I just didn't want to be a cook. You can make me anything else. And I remember, I left for boot camp. And I remember my mom was supportive. Of course, mom's doing moms. She didn't really want me to go, but she was very supportive. My stepdad at the time was like, "Well, you're never going to make it." You know what I mean? Of course, that just fueled the fire, right? I don't do things because people don't think I can do them. I want to do them because I want to do them, right? But it was like throwing a log in the fire. And then my dad was like, "Haven't you ever seen Full Metal Jacket?" And I'm like, "No, actually I haven't, but now I'll check that out." He's like, "That's what your life's going to be like." And I'm like, "I don't even know what that means, but okay." and go to your point, right? Going forward and doing things, thinking them through. I think there's a little adventure in not doing that and just kind of going with the flow, kind of seeing where it goes. Starting a business, a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I would pose the question back to you because it's joining the military is a extreme life change. And knowing nothing about boot camp or any of that other stuff and just doing it, man. Because it's like, I just want to challenge myself. Can I do it? We'll find out. And of course, when I went, that's the other thing. I don't know if you ever experienced this, but once I graduated boot camp. The naysayers were like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it." And it's like, bullcrap. What were you saying before?
Sure.
Right? And life's full of people like that. I don't know what it is. This is what I think it is. I think it's, what's the saying? Misery loves company, or people hate to see other people succeed. I don't know what that stems from. I'm 41. I'm still trying to figure that out, right? And I just think comes down to you're afraid to walk forward as where I'll walk forward, right? You're just afraid. Fear, I think, is really what it is. And I think once you can break through that, man, everything else is easy, right? So I joined. To answer your question, why did I join the Marine Corps? I joined. I'll sum it up, and it still remains the same to this day. If not me, then who? Who would go? Right? Terrorists are attacking our country. Who's going to go? Well, I'm able to go. Then I'll go. Right? I would rather go than somebody get drafted that didn't want to be there. Right? And that still holds true to this day. Right? Nothing's changed. I like protecting people that can't protect themselves. I'll stick up for the little guys. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that would join if they could, but they're not qualified in some way, shape, or form. I'll go. That's why I joined. And it just took something like that to kind of push me. Just push me. It was like it was like a arrow hit me in the forehead. I was to this day, well, there's only 2 things, maybe 3 things in my life that I was so clear on knowing I need to do this. That was one of them. You couldn't talk me out of it. There's nothing you could do that could talk me out of it.
What were the other ones?
Combat, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Combat was another one. And right now, as I'm retiring, like knowing what I want to focus, i.e. family, like those are like the 3 100% things that just I came out crystal clear, knowing what needs to be done. Yeah, so I mean that's why I joined the military and the Marine Corps. And why the Marine Corps? I could have joined any other branch. It just, I don't know. Maybe it was that recruiter I was making fun of when he was in my office. I mean, the dress blues look sharp. They do. Plus, it's the toughest boot camp. It's the longest boot camp. So it's like, well, listen, man, if you're going to go big, right? That's what I did. Now, of course, you can go Special Forces, Navy SEAL type stuff, but that's a whole nother level of dedication, right? That's like you're living it, breathing it, sleeping it, like that is your life. And I just don't think that I could have balanced a relationship, a family, traveling all over the world like they do. I mean, they're constantly on the go. So, I chose the Marine Corps.
When was the last? So combat deployments. How many have you had? 2.
That too, yeah.
And when was the last?
Was 2008.
And then the first one,
2005.
Okay.
2005 to 2006.
When did your relationship start with your wife?
So that was, we met in 2009.
When you're in Hawaii?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2009, yeah.
Because, I was going to say to that point, I mean, you mentioned Special Forces, which I have some friends. I have a friend who's a Navy SEAL, PJ, a couple Ranger kids. Yeah, I mean, it's all intensive. It's what you do.
Yeah.
Relationships are, I'm sure, families, nearly impossible. But I would guess that even for you on your first, sounds like, I don't know, 8 years, 7, 8 years in the Marine Corps, it was pretty extensive as well with 2 combat deployments, everything else. I think it can be maybe not equally, but also difficult to have a relationship, family, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you focus all your time and energy when you're single, right, on your Marines, right, taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can learn and master that craft, because that takes time. Once you can do that, you can then balance other things, right? You tend to take the next step. Okay, well, I can balance this. I can do this. This is getting easier. Now, can I do this and have a relationship. But after that first deployment, in 2005, we went to we were in Fallujah Haditha Dam. So
Where's Fallujah for people
in Iraq? I'm sorry,
Okay.
in Iraq. It's in the Al Anbar province, but we were in Haditha at the dam. Combat's that's a weird thing, and I know we talk about this, and it's, some people agree with what I say and some people don't. Again, that's just my opinion, and I'll do the Ben Steele thing. It's okay if we disagree. Combat will bring out the worst in people, but it also can bring out good things in people. But let's talk about the bad. So the bad things, when you've got to go on a certain level of, I hate to use the word hate, but that's just to relate it to people that have never been to combat before. A genuine hate for someone, right? To take another person's life. When you dabbled in that and you've seen other people that have gone through that and where that can take you spiritually, where it can take you emotionally, mentally, where that can take you. When you're down there, in my opinion, you've only got two other places to go. One is you can stay there, right? You can stay there and never let that go. Or you can go the love part. Because when you've swam in that pool before, there's only one other way that it sucks swimming there, right? I don't want to be in that. I don't want to swim in that pool anymore. I've swam it. I've seen what other people can do to other human beings. It's scary. I only want to go I want to go swim in the other pool for a little bit, right? And when I was done with my first deployment, it was crystal clear to me what was important to me at that point. And that is, Reed, life's too short. You need to start a family, right? Now that you've swam in hate, let's go with the love. And yeah, when I came back from my first deployment, I knew exactly what I wanted. I changed everything, and you and I have talked about this at work, as far as relationships and stuff like that. Like when you shift what you used to look for to what you want, completely different. You meet different people, and it's just more. It's more fulfilling when you finally meet someone. And you're honest with yourself, because that's the other thing too. I always used to lie to myself. I was not the best boyfriend, if you will. I was, my younger me was doing things that, the old me looks back on and you're like, shame. But when you look forward to what you really want and you're humble and you say, this is what I really want out of life. Like, this is what I'm looking for in a partner. You tend to gravitate towards those people. It's weird. It's like, wow, how when I met my wife, it's like, I want a woman who is independent. I want a woman who is a good mother that values family, right? Like, those were important to me. And that's what I found. And then it was like, okay, when I was with that woman, it's like, okay, with my wife, it's like, all right, now I want to start a family. And when you go through that process in life, you learn a lot of things. I was impatient, right? Of course, the Marine Corps doesn't teach you patience. It's on-demand actions. You learn patience. I think that's extremely important. You learn communication, another big thing that's important in a relationship is communication. You're experimenting with these new things. And I think after my first combat deployment, I almost knew what I wanted. The crazy thing is when I went on my second deployment, that's how I met my wife. So I met my wife through a dating app, which is Match.com. Is Match.com even a thing still? There's so many dating sites now.
Yeah, I think it's a thing.
But I was honest
with old school.
Yeah, it's old school. I was honest with myself, and I asked myself when I was building this profile, I was like, I'm going to be real. This is what I'm looking for. And just as I'm leaving for my deployment, my wife hits me up. Hey, cool skydiving pic. I was like, yeah, Cool. You like skydiving? Yeah. So pen pals for the past 7 months, right? And the funny thing about my wife is she would send me 5 paragraphs asking questions. My response was, whenever I could get on the internet, was a paragraph. Yes, no, yes, this. You know what I mean? It was like I'm just answering questions, maybe throw 1 or 2 questions at the end and then hit send, right? And we just became pen pals, and I got to know her that way. But, today's day and age now, I can be anybody you want me to be on the internet. That's the crazy thing. But when I met my wife in person, when I came back from my second deployment, we went out on a date, and she was everything that was prescribed. You know what I mean? We hit it off, and and the rest is history. That's how I met my wife, and good times.
So that first deployment, you mentioned Haditha Dam.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a significant landmark? What was the importance there?
The importance is it generated power for Haditha and some other cities that were south of that.
Okay. So you were protecting that, or that just was home base, or?
We were protecting it. It was a important thing because a terrorist could probably go in there and destroy it, whatever, and that'd have catastrophic implications for Haditha and the other cities. Yeah.
And you talked through the job that you went open contract. You could have any job. So what job did you end up getting, and what was your day-to-day life like?
So it was motor transport. So basically I drive trucks, Humvees, 7 tons, bigger trucks. And yeah, it's basically just driving vehicles. That's what I did when I was a young Marine. When we were over there, our missions were to get the equipment, food, water to the infantry guys that are out front. So they would have positions set up towards the fight. We were kind of in the rear. But our job was to get bullets, beans, and Band-Aids, if you will, to them. Meanwhile, dodging IEDs and people trying to blow you up and kill you.
How frequent was, not the potential of danger, but how frequent was there an actual event where IED, live fire, etc.?
I would say, all right, 1 in 5. So out of one out of the 5 times we would go out and resupply, we'd run into enemy contact or IED. Yeah, so 1 in 5.
Were those daily runs typically? Or just depended?
I would say we'd probably go out maybe 4 times a week.
Okay.
4 times a week. Yeah. Had a couple close calls. But the crazy thing is I always, the scaredest time I was the time I was getting on that bird to get out. The day before I got on that bird, they dropped an artillery round right on the LZ, the landing zone where the helicopters take off and land. The day prior, so it's like you already knew that they had us pinged, right? They knew where to drop a round at. And
why would they use the same LZ?
Well, it's the only LZ that we had on the dam, was up on top of the dam.
Okay.
And yeah, I remember getting on there and I just was thinking, man, I was actually scared. Even landing in Hawaii, I was scared. Because the whole time you're thinking to yourself, I just made it through that. Wouldn't it be something if I just... Yeah. Like you always kind of think of those kind of things.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's probably that mental state where, you've done so much, you're so close.
Yes.
And, you see the finish line.
Yep.
Just my luck.
My luck, right? I always used to carry a picture. My mom gave me a picture of my grandparents. And I always used to carry that picture with me in my left breast pocket, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that I wasn't scared over there, but there was a lot of times where I don't know if I was scared. It was just I had a clear conscience, if you will. I had a clear conscience. And my grandma's mentality is, well, it's always, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And I kind of share that same thought process. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I'm not saying I'm not afraid of death, but it's not something I think about. And you surely can't think about it over there, because it's your whole job, your whole focus is to, one, accomplish a mission, and two, to bring all your Marines back, right? So you're so focused on that you don't have time to think about other things. So, yeah.
To someone who hasn't experienced it, I haven't. And then I'm sure a lot of people who listen haven't. I don't know. What does it feel like to be deployed to a combat environment? What's running through your mind? Are you just there to do a job? Are you, the overall morale? Is it down, up? I mean, what's the psychological impact?
Try spending Christmas in a bunker, thousands of miles away from your family.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody fighting for a satellite phone that probably only lasts 10 minutes, right? Everybody's trying to call their family and be like, hey, Merry Christmas or Happy Birthday. It's pretty depressing. However, the thing that keeps you going is the guy to your and gal to your left and right. That's it. You're it. That's, if I'm down and you're not, you're taking care of me, and vice versa. Yeah, combat sucks. There's no other way to put it. But you're there to do a job, and you're so focused on taking care of the guys and accomplishing the mission, you don't have time to think anything else. It's the downtime, like when you're not on a mission and you're like, I'm about to go to sleep or whatever. That's when your mind starts, I wonder how my family's doing, back home. Are they thinking about me? Because I'm thinking about them. You struggle with that every day. Yeah, that's something you struggle with. It's hard to put things like that into words, and for somebody who's never done it, it's hard to paint that picture. But sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you're way down. I remember a lot of times where I was just down and out, and then my aunt or my grandma would send me a big bag of Dublin's beef jerky, and I was like, wow, something reminded me of home, right? And we just eat that up, and it was just, yeah, any little thing like that. Mail, huge morale booster. And anything back from the States that your family would send is a huge morale booster. And I think anybody listening, if you got any family members that are serving, if you have opportunity to send them something, it goes a long way, 100%.
Did you interact? I wanted to ask. Did you interact with local populace much?
Yes.
How was that? And these are Iraqis.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to give you the very political answer here. I'm not going to give you what I want to, because again, I don't want to open up doors. But some of them I felt were faking the funk. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, it's almost like they want to get rid of the bad guys, but did they really, right? It's just, I only interacted with a couple of the, what do you want to call them, the military guys that would go around, basically interpreters. They would dress up the part, and they'd drive our Humvees and stuff like that, and they'd go around and they'd tell us about the areas. They'd tell us who's good, who's bad. But some of them were just, you could tell that they were just there to collect a paycheck or get free gear or whatever. Because it's like, you'd give them things like, here's a set of camis, right? Or here's this, and then they'd show up like a week later, and it's like, where's your camis? Oh, I lost them, and it's like, so you'd give them something out. You know what I mean? So it's they were annoying sometimes, but you had to work with them, right? You know what was crazy about Haditha Dam is the guy who ran the dam. This guy used to come to work in a Datsun. This old beat up Datsun. Come driving up and down, zipping up down the main roads. Not a care in the world. Meanwhile, I'm driving in a 15 vehicle convoy trying to, looking for IEDs that somebody just buried. But this guy's cruising to work like it's cool. And you're like, wait a minute. How's he driving without a care? I don't know. And those that IDF or indirect fire I was telling you about that we got before I left, that was the only time that place, while I was there, ever saw any kind of action. How is that possible? Weird. I'll just leave it at that. Weird.
That's interesting. Is there anything else you want to share on that deployment? So you went there, I guess, and then you came back, and then where'd you go the second deployment? And it was what, 3 years later?
It might have been 2007, 2008. But yeah, so how the operations used to work when we were in Hawaii was you do a 7-month deployment, 12-month workup. 7-month deployment, 12-month workup. That's how they break it down. And we were on the cycle. So I was there with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. We went to Haditha first, then we went to Fallujah second.
Same group of guys for the most part?
For the most part, yeah. Same group of guys.
That's good.
Yeah, it was good. And of course, you're trying to get the new guys that are the new attachments with you. It's all spun up on it, right? Fallujah was a little bit different, though. Fallujah was not like Haditha. Fallujah, we lost our battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Galliai. I remember that.
What to?
So he was a suicide bomb. So a guy dressed up as a Iraqi military guy in the whole getup walked into a meeting, and you had Sergeant Major Wilkinson, who's the Terminator. That guy's awesome. He's retired now, but he was in there. The CO was in there, the commanding officer, and then a bunch of other Marines with the local hierarchy there. And he walked in and detonated it, killed everybody in there, with the exception of a couple people. Sergeant Major Wilkinson being one of those. He lost his leg due to that. Sergeant Major Wilkinson, if anybody ever has ran into him, he's a very intimidating person. He's survived a helicopter crash, IED blast, suicide bomb. This was while I was under his command. But yeah, the guy is here he's a legend, in my opinion. Yeah, so he was, the CO was killed from a suicide bomber, and just the overall, it was just different there in Fallujah. This wasn't part of, I wasn't part of the takeover of Fallujah, and anybody knows that's been in the Iraq War. It's we took it over, then we lost it, then we took it back over, and then we lost it. Right? I wasn't a part of that, but I was a part of holding her down. So that deployment was a blur to me, because I had a lot of things going on there. We even had the opportunity to do Humvee courses while we're there. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel like it didn't feel like Haditha, it didn't feel like Haditha did. Haditha was intense.
Yeah.
No rules. Where Fallujah was a little bit different.
The infantry guys were still patrolling, obviously, and yeah.
They were still getting engagements and stuff like that, but it was nothing like Haditha was.
Haditha was initial push type of deal?
No, Haditha was completely different. That's Haditha and Fallujah.
Yeah. Right, but the first one, was that was soon after 9/11, was that?
Well, no, because 9/11 was 2001.
Right,
we were there. I
year
was there
later.
in 2005-06.
Oh.
No, it was in 2005-06. So it was a little bit after.
Right.
I wasn't there for the original takeover for Haditha Dam. I think that was done by Army Rangers. Originally took that dam over and then held it down. So I wasn't a part of that. Yeah.
What does it take to be a good leader in the military?
Other leaders will have their own opinions, but my opinion would be patience. You have to be humble and realize that other people may have better ideas than you, right? and to listen to that and maybe acknowledge some of that. Of course, leading by example. I think we in the Marine Corps we have leadership traits and leadership principles, which are all important, right? And they all serve their purpose. There's one of them though that's it's knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement, right? And again, not a lot of people like to look at themselves in the mirror and go, "What's wrong with me today?" Or what's my weaknesses? I know my strengths, but what are my weaknesses? Okay, that's my weakness. How do I push forward and try to fix that or work on that? The other one, another one to me that's extremely important is employing your unit within its capabilities, employing your Marines or your personnel, right, within their capabilities. Ben, you're strong at PT, right? You're really good at PT. You're like a fast runner, right? Super fast runner.
The
fastest, right?
No.
So if I'm going to have my group work out, right, and I want to challenge all of them, am I going to take my slowest guy and throw him up front? No, because nobody, if that's his standard, right, nobody else is going to improve. So I'm going to take Ben and say, Ben, kill us. Take us out on a run, right? And Ben's going to run, and we're all going to get smoked, right? That is challenging all of us. I think, or same thing with teaching, or who's a good communicator. I'm not going to grab somebody who stutters, right, while they're talking to a group of individuals and say, all right, you're going to teach a class. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to throw somebody who's an effective communicator. What's the downside to that, though, if I do that? The downside is I'm not challenging or bringing the people who aren't at that level yet up.
Right.
So how do you manipulate that to where you're helping that individual out? And again, all these things are leadership challenges that you're trying to constantly bring other people up, right? How do you do that? Well, you can do that by you can do that by bringing people, motivating them, right? Just motivating, inspiring them, bringing them up and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna challenge you, right? I'm gonna make you step out of your comfort zone. Let's see how you do with it." And then 9 times out of 10, usually when you bring somebody out of their comfort zone, and they see that they can do it, throw compliments behind that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And be like, "Hey, I told you, I believed in you. Now do you believe in yourself that you can do this?" Yes, I can. See, what you just did is you elevated them, right? To where if you just keep doing that, right, eventually they're going to get to where you want them to be.
Right.
And they're going to thank you for that, right? Because you're making them step out of their comfort zone.
You told me a story, I don't know if you want to share it, of you not getting along with one of your lieutenants. So in the military, ranking the most junior of there's enlisted and an officer, it would be a second lieutenant or first lieutenant. So was he a second lieutenant?
He he was a first lieutenant.
First lieutenant?
Yeah, he was a first lieutenant when I first met him, because then he got promoted to captain. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to share that experience?
Without his name, sure.
Yeah,
I can do
without
that.
his name, definitely.
Or my unit, because then people can.
Okay.
He was a unique individual. In the Marine Corps, we have height and weight standards, right? This guy clearly was probably not within that height and weight standard, and that's okay. I can kind of look past that, right? It was more of his actions and the way he communicated to people. He was the type of guy where, and again, I was a sergeant at the time, right? So I was an E5 at the time.
So that's how many years of experience? Probably 5, 6?
At the time, I was
maybe 4.
No, I had about 6 or 7 years of experience.
Okay.
Underneath my belt, and I remember he would come up with these ideas, and I'd say, "Well, sir, that's great, but have you thought about this, or have you thought about this? Because this is, in my experience, what I've seen happen with it. X, Y, or Z. I don't care. We're going to do it this way." I'm not going to have a sergeant tell me what to do. And I'm like, okay, very well. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to advise, right? And again, when you keep going through these kind of experiences where it's like, I don't want to play the I told you so, but when things happen exactly how almost like you predicted, you would think as an individual or as a leader, you would probably realize, okay, maybe I should take this individual's advice or whatever. Right. And he just refused to do that. And I can honestly say that I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I've done everything I can for this working relationship to try and blossom. And I've honestly exhausted all means. And eventually I just had to kind of let him go down his path that he wanted to go. And he ended up getting promoted. And when he got promoted, it was even worse because now you're at a different level. And what do you do at that point? Hopefully he's learned from that experience now, wherever he is, that he's realized that, wow, maybe I should listen to other people with experience. Maybe I can learn something. And that goes for anybody, not just in the military. I think if you're a person in a position where you have the responsibility over people, I think there's a lot to learn there. I think there's a lot of value in listening to other people's ideas. I'm 41 years old, and the conversations you and I have all the time, I still learn things. You're always learning. And if you're not humble enough to say that, hey, I don't know it all, maybe you should be. Because that's what life's all about, man, is learning.
A difficult thing for me, that actually wasn't the specific story I was thinking of, but I remember that one too. And a difficult thing for me with the military, the unique construct of the military, is if you're in one of those difficult situations. I mean, it sounds like you somewhat just endured it, right? Got through it, made your best of the situation, and time eventually will pass. That's hard for me. Mm-hmm. And being able to do that's an important skill, and I've definitely done that. But that is a tough thing because in normal world, if you're in a severely toxic environment or situation, you can just get out, and 100%. That's how I'm going to try to live my life the rest of my life. If I'm, you are who you surround yourself with, and you probably are who you work with, and so it's never going to be hunky-dory. I mean, work is work. Sometimes it's going to suck, but, it's going to be nice to be able to create an environment rather than just fall into one necessarily. I don't know if you agree with that, but it can be tough. It's hit or miss. It seems like sometimes in big organizations like the military.
Totally agree. But you know me, so I like to poke the bear a little bit with people. Mm-hmm. Obviously, working with you before, I've done that to you quite a bit. I actually look at it as a challenge. Like I kind of like a challenge like that, where it's like, okay, here I got somebody who we don't see eye to eye. Can I get him or her to realize that maybe somebody else has a better viewpoint, right? And I told you so. That's so easy. I told you. You could do that, right? But you're not going to break through to anybody. Maybe word it to where it's like, what did we learn about this situation, or what's your viewpoint on it now, as opposed to what it was before, right? And get that individual to regurgitate exactly what you already know. Mm-hmm. That's what I like to do. But yeah, it does suck. And in the civilian world, yeah, you could be like, deuces, I'm out, right? See ya. I don't like this working environment. I'm out. But realistically, why would you be working at a place that you don't like anyway? Yeah. And whether that's because of the people or whatever, what have you, but I would experiment a little bit with it first. I'd poke the bear a little bit. Then if I realize, hey, there is no breaking through to this individual, and this person may be in the way of my success later on down the road, yeah, I might make a detour myself. But I want to say that I've exhausted all means before I've done that. Yeah, you know.
No, I agree with that. I mean, there's a benefit to that because, you don't want to bail at the first sign of friction.
Sure.
Right? Because wherever it gets in, I mean, even the best business partners or whatever, they're going to have friction. If you're building anything you believe in, there's going to be some sort of disagreement. So I agree.
Absolutely.
Expend all efforts and then, create a situation for success. So
yeah, 100%.
So you got back from that second deployment in 2007?
The second one was 2008.
2008.
Mm-hmm.
So you got back. That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was.
That was
Thanks for making me feel old.
12, 13 years ago.
Appreciate it.
What has changed in the military? I've heard you say it's changed, and we don't need to, I don't know what you want to cover there, but
you've got wartime Marine Corps and you've got peacetime Marine Corps. Those both come with baggage.
Yeah.
It's just different. And I know every generation of Marines say this. Well, back in my day, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the grandparents that tell the parents tell the kids, I used to go to school uphill both ways. You know what I mean? It's like, well, wait a minute, that didn't even make any sense. But yes, I get what you're saying. It was harder for you back then than it is today.
Right.
I'm not gonna say I agree with that. There's just society has changed. Society back, I don't want to say, society 20 years ago was different than society today.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Even. 10 years ago.
10 years ago, right? So, it's just different. There's some challenges. There's things that have gotten more lax, whereas things back in my day were a little more stringent. It's just what it is. The one great thing that I've learned about the military, though, the number one takeaway is what's the Bruce Lee saying there? Be water, right? Yeah, you will learn how to be fluid, very reactionary, proactive, however you want to. You can adapt. Adaptation. There you go. You can adapt to just about any situation that life will throw at you. You just can. I appreciate that. That helps. So when you do have friction points or chaos happening around you, you tend not to lose your mind, as to where somebody who doesn't have that kind of experience probably would, right? Or can. Number one takeaway from the military is adaptation, right? You hear leaders talk about it all the time, right? It's one of the good things, one of the good traits coming out of the military with. And I think that if you carry that on into anything that you do, work, relationship, whatever, it's going to benefit you, right?
Just to put that in perspective a little bit for the listeners. So on that point, adaptation, fluidity, being water. So, I mean, even in my own experience, I can only imagine 20 years of this through potential war times, but even for me, you're talking joining the Marine Corps out of college, going to training in Quantico, where first 3 months you have no idea what you're doing any day, and then the same for you at boot camp. And then the next 6 months after that, similarly, you maybe know week by week, but you're going different places. Then North Carolina, and then here, where very unfortunately, I mean, not always conveniently, there's a very reactive, and then going out to the desert and training for 6 weeks, and then going here for 2 weeks, and then deploying to Okinawa. So, I mean, I think it's a whole new level of fluidity. But I agree with that.
Well, don't forget, you've also traveled abroad too, right? You've been to other countries.
Yeah.
You've done a lot more things outside of the Marine Corps too.
Right.
So, like, you've also got a lot of experience with
it. Yeah. I mean, one thing with me is I do like the sense of adventure. I like change. I'm very resistant to risk. No, that's the wrong way to put it. I'm like, risk doesn't worry me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. What's the word for that? I don't know. Like I can take risks like starting a podcast or doing et cetera, or traveling somewhere, and I can have no worry. Like I could honestly tomorrow I could buy a plane ticket to Italy or England, no return ticket, and be totally content. And I don't think most people are that. But
you know how many people wish they could do that? That's what I'm saying. You're fearless, right?
Well, it just takes practice, I think, right?
It does, but the more you do it, the more confident you get to take risks, right? That's what I'm saying. But you have people that won't even put a step forward, and I wish anybody listening, try it, right? Like do something that you're not used to, that you've never done before. Just try it, right? If you fail, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You already knew you were going to do that anyway, right? Just go. Just do it, man. Do it.
Well, I think this is a good point. So a lot of people that I talk to, and I by no means am like a great example in general, but I do this, and you've done this a lot. I mean, you're very much so this way too, I'd say, from my interaction. Like when we were together in Okinawa, we were always down to do stuff. I feel like we probably did more than anyone in our unit. Honestly,
I would
that
agree
might
with that.
be true.
Yeah.
But at least top 5%. We were always going places, diving, exploring, and it's just a good way to live your life, you know. And later on, I hope to do that with my family, like you. But so many people are they're paralyzed by the fear and the worry, and they look at me and like things I do, like last week, driving all the way up the coast and surfing loads of random spots that I had never been to, literal word of mouth, just asking locals, hey, where should I go? Hitting up friends that I know, where do you recommend? Meeting awesome people, stopping by, some professional photographers' studios and just introducing myself. Like, people just don't do that kind of thing anymore, and I think they're missing out. And I don't think they need to do it necessarily I get it, not everyone's a traveler. I'm not saying it has to be on the travel aspect, but just putting down your phone. I hardly went on my phone. I noticed for that week, I hardly went on my phone. I think my usage of my phone was like, I think I only used it for Spotify. Legit. I was not doing any...
Answer my phone call when I called you. But
I did. I probably ignored like 3 or 4 other people, but I will always answer for you. So just putting down your phone and consuming yourself in something is so rare these days. And it felt so good. It felt very interesting because work messages, we were getting 30. We get 30 a day.
Yeah.
30
Easily.
or so a day, and I'm just seeing these things coming through, and it felt so good just not to open the app. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what was going on, and it's very weird. But I would say that's a big push that I have for people is just go do it and stick with it, because whatever it is, it takes time and it takes a level of consumption. I mean, if I want this podcast to be successful, I know that I'm gonna have to do a podcast to 2 podcasts a week for a long time.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to be willing to do it for a year to 2 years, and maybe with a very small level of success in order to get to the final end state. And I just don't think many people are willing, to do that, to consume themselves. And that's a strong thing I advocate for.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. The traveling things, that's where I envy you. Like you, of course, I've traveled everywhere through the Marine Corps, right? That's where I've traveled, right? And I've been to a lot of places, but you're different because I'm gonna go to Italy this next month. You know what I mean? You just buy a plane ticket and go. And of course, I don't have that luxury of doing that,
right?
Because I've got kids, then I'm bringing them, and that's gonna cost a lot of money, right? I mean, crap, when we lived in Hawaii, just to come from Hawaii to Michigan, if I wanted to fly my family, you're talking $5,000, right? Yeah, for a round trip. I mean, that's expensive. But insane. For a single guy like yourself, absolutely, I envy that.
Right.
Like, how many countries have you been to?
That's a bad question for me. Not that many. because I joined the military. So
yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
went to college. My family, we never traveled internationally. It's just my family wasn't super adventurous, honestly. You know, my dad likes to hunt and things, and that's what we did. Camping, that's about it. So I didn't do it much growing up. And then I went to England. So I did live in England and Wales for a couple of years, and then I've gone back to the UK before, and I've flown into other places briefly, and then obviously Japan. But that's about it for me. Now in the States, I would say I'm probably more traveled than almost anyone I know. And the reason is because I joined the military right outside of college, and it's pretty difficult to travel internationally. It's definitely doable, but I just hate the paperwork. But when I get out, you know, I get next March, I'm gonna be all over.
Well,
right?
take a bunch of pictures.
I will.
If you're a listener and you haven't been to this guy's website, what is your website? Because you should check this out. Throw it to the listeners. But some of his photos he's got are pretty dope. Pretty
They're
dope.
getting better. So yeah, it's just bensteel.us. You guys can check it out. Yeah, I'll plug it elsewhere. But
and
yeah,
you know, traveling. So my dad, when I was younger, he was. I don't want to say he was spontaneous, but he would be like, "Hey, we're gonna go on a hiking trip. We're gonna go camping. We go hiking." Well, my dad wouldn't stick to no trails, right? He'd just be like, "Let's throw it on there. We're gonna walk the river, and wherever we camp, this is where we're gonna camp." And it was like, "Do you know where you're going, Dad?" Of course, you know I'm knee high to a grasshopper, but we just did it, right?
yeah.
And speaking to Dad, so the intro music, yeah, that was because I sent it to my family, and my grandma was like, "What? There's no singing." I'm like, "No, it's not meant to sing, right? It's supposed to be an instrumental." I actually wrote that in was it South China Sea we were at?
Yeah,
we were on the ship, and I brought my guitar on there and just hit record with GarageBand, and just that's what I came up with. And I was just I don't know. It reminded me of me and my dad hiking. That's why it's called. Yeah, I labeled it Hiking with Dad. And it just music is what I'm starting to get into, along with this idea here. But again, this I know nothing about, and to our point, I might actually dive into this and try it. Right?
Yeah, you should.
Who knows? It may go somewhere. It may not. But I'm gonna try. Right? And that's one of the main focus points here is just keep trying, keep pushing. Music, same thing. I think you brought up the point. Maybe you should just do like what was the thing? Like just make those short little intro musics, intro things. That's kind of cool. I just like sitting upstairs and in my room and grabbing a guitar and just, hey, that sounded good. Hit record.
Sure.
Save it for later. I'll come back to that later. And that's kind of how Hiking with Dad came up. It's like little parts of it, and I just put it all together, and was like, wow, that's. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I tend to listen to that more than I'll listen to the radio, right? Because it's something that's creative. It's not
Who's that artist you really like? The instrumental one that.
Buckethead?
No, yeah, I know you love Buckethead. No, they're just straight instrumental. They have guitar similar to yours, kind of like the
Joe Satriani.
No.
Eric
The
Johnson.
Friday Night Lights, that type of feel.
Oh, Explosions in the Sky.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
they're just. And watching them live, I've never been to a show, but just watching videos of them playing live, it's these dudes. It's just weird. Not weird. It's fantastic watching a group of individuals just push out that kind of emotion and music.
Would you say music has that been a bit of an outlet for you with maybe because the life in the military is fairly intense, I think. Whether maybe you're used to it by now, but it is. So is music an outlet, or what's your outlet?
Definitely an outlet. And to be honest, before I was married and before I met my wife, I would actually be at work and just be like, wow, I cannot wait to get back to my barracks room. I'd plug in my guitar, and I would jam from the time I got home till about 9, 10 o'clock at night.
No way.
just straight. Like there was a time frame where it was just
With headphones in, or did
no.
you drive your neighbors
Oh,
nuts?
dude, I had a little crate half stack that I just crank it, right? And of course the neighbors, well, I'm a sergeant, and everybody around me was kind of lower rank, and it was like, not to abuse that kind of power, but who's gonna come up to me and be like, excuse me, Sergeant, can you turn your music down? Shut up, get out of here, I'm jamming, right? It would be one thing if I was terrible at it, but I'm pretty good at it. So,
Great,
you know,
honestly.
who's gonna tell you to come turn down Metallica, right? Like nobody's gonna tell you to come turn that down. But I was most of the time I was respectful for my neighbors. But yeah, music was an outlet for me, and it still is. However, I have to take it in doses because I do have, you know, a wife and kids. I can't just lock myself up there and continue to play music all the time.
Well, the great thing is you're going to have more time now. So I think the idea, just if you find a way to apply some of these things you're interested in into your normal life, I mean,
yeah,
that's the dream, right? I think for me, the dream is not making a lot of money or being famous or anything, but it's just doing something that I enjoy, you know, and having a living. You got to live,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
But like you said, you just need what you need. I mean, you don't need a nice car or anything. You just, you know, you need to be able to live comfortably. But
100%. If you're happy with what you're doing, you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Because there's people out there right now that are working jobs that they just hate, but they continue to do it. I get it, but I don't get it, if that makes sense. I get it because you have to out of a necessity, but
I don't get it. I really
Okay.
I really don't get it because I mean, I get it if you're not happy, yeah, don't quit today. Go start looking for another job and then quit once you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But in your 2 weeks once you get it. So if it's for short periods of time, I understand. I mean, I've worked some shitty jobs, but also a lot of these crappy jobs that I worked, I was naive at the time. I didn't really know what I liked or didn't like, but yeah, I don't get it, honestly. I feel like life's too short. You're in charge of your own life. Unless you're committed into like a military contract, it's pretty inexcusable to do something you absolutely dread for a long period of time, I think. But
well, I mean, when you're contractually obligated to things, I mean, again, that's a commitment, and an individual should understand that again, going back to the accountability thing we were talking about a while ago, right? You're now accountable for your follow through. If you're going to do that contractual obligation, then follow through with it, man, and do the best you can. But once you're done with that contract, then yes, if you're not enjoying it, move on. And 20 years I've done this, and 80% of the time I was having a good time.
yeah,
That's pretty good by military standards.
that's pretty good
pretty
in
good,
general.
yeah.
I mean, I'd say that's about as good a job. You're not going to love your job all the time,
No
matter what it is, right?
Of course.
So,
But, it's 80% of the time I was having a good time. Yeah.
when was the other 20?
Oh, recruiting duty. Recruiting duty. Find me a recruiter that says they had a great time.
Yeah.
Tough. As a matter of fact, sales. I'm good at sales. I'd like to think I am. I'm saying that humbly. But
You'd always come in and sell some ridiculous some lie. You'd come sell some ridiculous lie that wasn't, not the truth to me and everyone else, just to convince us something was happening, some absurd hike or.
And did I sell you on it?
Yeah, you did. You did
There you go.
consistently for my first month or two in the office, and then I caught on. But now, something I truly enjoy is sitting by while you sell or bullshit some other guy who's
Tormenting somebody else. Yeah, you like to sit. Yeah, okay.
I kind of like to egg it on a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun not being on the receiving end as much anymore.
It is, and it's even more fun to watch when you're watching this go down, and you're like, how long can he string them along for? And of course, I do it I don't know why I do it. I think it's just entertainment value. Of course, it's harmless, right? I
Yeah.
would never do that to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My aunt,
it's always harmless
my
fun.
aunt
chill.
always gives me crap about it, and she's like, you're always the kid who cries wolf, and nobody's gonna believe you. And you want to know something? She's actually right. I'll even tell my wife, "Hey, honey, I love you." Yeah, right. It's like, what? Because I clown with her so much, right? Or I clown with a lot of people, or do that kind of stuff, and it has its repercussions to where it's now people are like, wait a minute, is this guy telling the truth or is he not? And that, like, when I want it to be serious, I have to do that extra step to convince them to be like, no, I'm dead serious, right? But recruiting duty was definitely one of the 20%. The best analogy about recruiting duty is this. I don't know if you've heard me say this. It's like swimming in a sea of shit. Okay? You don't know how deep it is, but it's shit nonetheless, right? So you're swimming down there, and you're told that there's gold bricks down at the bottom. All you got to do is just find them. So you're swimming around there just blind, right? You're feeling around, you got one. You come up to the surface, you're happy, you're like, yes, I got a gold brick, I'm rich, my troubles are over. Then the lifeguard pulls up in their boat, and they're like, beep, and then they're like, they grab it from you, kick you away from their boat, and be like, that's mine. Better go find another one. And you're like, well, crap. So you go back swimming again. You do that around 36 times. You're out there for 36 months. That's what recruiting duty is like, right? But there are a lot of good
and
things.
Each of those gold bricks are a recruit.
Yeah, in this analogy, yes, right. One of the good things though is this, man. I've taken people in some of the worst situations, foster kids, kids that were just in bad circumstances, and showed them a way that you can get out. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you working hard. It's going to cost you a follow through and commitment, accountability. But I promise you, it's going to be better than what you're in right now. And those kids are like, let's do it, right? Mm-hmm. And to watch a kid, what's crazy is when a kid I'm saying this the best way I can. When a kid values you more than their own parent or a family member, that says a lot. And I've had the ability to take kids out of those kind of situations and put them in a better one. To me, that you can't put a dollar amount on that. That's way more valuable than getting paid a lot of money or having all these things. It's when you can help someone get out of a situation. To me, that's extremely important. I think that's the most important thing. Helping each other out, however that may be. And I'm trying to. I don't know how I'm going to do that when I get out. But there's many ways you can, right? I've got a lot of ideas, but I'd like to continue that, helping people out. You and I do it. Like, you've inspired the guys at work. You know what I mean? There's guys that appreciate you, right? Like, you brought our section to a different level, right? Than the person there previous. The person there previous was great. They brought a different aspect. You bring a different aspect. I like your thought process. So you kind of think you'd be great in sales, right? Because you're that productivity guy where it's like, all right, I have this many days, 168 hours in a week. What can I accomplish with that? Okay, well, this is how much time I had. This is my production. Does it match and mirror? If it doesn't, that's what I'm focusing on. Mm-hmm. And you brought that to the section. I think that was great. Now, of course, if you're a worker, right, you're like, oh boy, wait, hold on a second. We got to do this. We got to do that. Wait a minute, right?
Right.
But that's okay. You're forcing them to step out of their comfort zone. I think that's great because we are results based. That's what the military is, results, right? And what are we doing to accomplish that? If we're not doing anything to accomplish that, we need to look internally and figure out why we're not, right? And then focus on that. And I appreciate that that aspect you brought to the platoon. Of course, now that you're leaving, right, and I'm leaving here too, I'm actually curious to see what your next step is, because of course I'll be standing there tapping my toe, going, what's Ben doing? Is he doing it the right way? What? How can I push the button, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
please do.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see how it all ends up too. I appreciate you saying that. I definitely didn't do. 4 years. I mean, it hasn't been very long. Vice, you were 20, but and I haven't done a lot of things perfect, but I did my best, and I think I'm gonna really come into my own though here in the future. So
you're visionary, man.
Yeah,
you are. You're an entrepreneur, visionary, right? Mm-hmm. And that's great. I think my prediction, and I'll just say this because it's being recorded, right? My prediction is that you're probably going to be pretty big in whatever it is that you do. And I thought you were going
to say live in a van down by the river.
No. Well, what's wrong with that? I
mean,
are you enjoying living in a van down by the river, having a study diet of government cheese?
Yeah, I'm into the van thing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. What about one of the things that's helped me get through this 20 years is faith, though. Faith is one of those things, whether it's you believe in God, whatever, the listeners believe in, that's fine. Faith is has been a huge thing in my life. I grew up being drugged. I want to say drugged to church because that makes it sound bad, but my aunt would take us to church. Yeah. And I remember as a kid, I probably fought her on it. I was like, I don't want to go play baseball with my friends or whatever. But I'm glad she did because when I was in combat, remember I was telling you the clear conscience thing, right? Like when you believe in something and you believe that something is watching over you or having you go down a path for a reason. Remember, when I joined the Marine Corps, it was very clear why. And obviously, I'd like to think that was from a higher power giving me direction, because one of the key things I didn't tell you about before I was joined, and when I was welding before I joined, I was hanging out with a couple that I worked with. I forget his name, but I started to go down this religious path. Where I thought I was going to be a preacher. Right. That's crazy, right?
Through that couple, they were religious and kind of rubbed off on you?
Well, I've had religion my whole life, right? Yeah, it was very off and on, but I don't know, I can't explain it. It was just kind of like, this is what I feel like I'm called to do. And then, of course, 9/11 happened. It was like, no, this is what you're going to do. And I was like, okay, good to go. That's what I'm going to do. Being in combat and seeing just how short life is, how precious it is, and then helping people, and it's just I'm starting to, even today, I talk to my aunt all the time about it, what's going on in society today, and just I'm starting to see, and again, this is my belief, right? I grew up Baptist, right? So Christian Baptist. So I believe in God, right? And talking to her about these things, she's kind of my outlet and my grandma as well. She's kind of my outlet talking about those kind of things. And I'm just starting to quickly realize that without faith of any sort, right? It doesn't matter what you believe in. Without having it, what's the point? I get it. Yeah, we're here to live and multiply and everything else. But I believe that religion or faith is a foundation, right? the stronger foundation you have, the longer your house is probably going to stay built, and you can continue building. I think that my kids, I don't want to say it, I teach my kids, right, to have faith as well, because there's been many times, and I've seen it in combat, where even you could be an atheist, not believe in anything, right? But when you're this close from being killed or somebody trying to kill you, you'll reach for something. You will reach for something. You'll pray to a tree, right? But it's something outside of yourself. And many times I've had that happen where it's like, you pray, and it's like, and I think it's huge. I think it's huge, and I think it's beneficial. And some people may not agree with that. That's okay, right? I like having those kind of conversations with people. I'm more interested in, why do you believe what you believe, right? And I know you never like to engage with those kind of things at work, with the conspiracies and stuff like that. But I like getting in the psychology of it. Why do you believe what you believe, right? And you dive into it, and I think it's interesting. You can learn a lot of things. I've learned through our conversations. I've learned a lot of things from you where it's like, all right, I didn't look at it from that point of view, but okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of maneuver your way of thinking. I'll pick up some things from you. I'm sure you've probably picked up some things from me, and that's just what it's all about. But I think having faith in something is extremely important.
So 2 things. First thing, I didn't like to talk conspiracy theory at work purely from a managerial standpoint.
Totally understand.
Just limited amount of time, a lot to do.
Totally understand.
I actually think they're interesting to talk about. Just like you say, any opposing viewpoint is interesting. On the faith aspect, how does someone gain a faith in today's day and age of like finding out if God's there, right? Or what specific faith someone's supposed to pursue? How do they find that?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Have you ever watch someone and look at them and go, I want what that individual has, regardless of what it is, right? Could be monetary, could be social status, could be a lot of things, totally. Right? I look at, so if you had an opportunity to walk up to that person, right, and say, what got you to where you're at right now? And they looked at you and said, I got all these things through God. Now you have a choice to either A, believe them or not, right? Let's go for, you chose to believe them, right? You go, wow, all right, teach me these things. You can't have a relationship with something or someone if you don't put forth an effort to learn about, right? Mm-hmm. Some people may not even know it. They've heard the terminology God, right? Or whatever you want to label them, right? But how much have you focused your energy on learning, right? Have you ever opened up a book? And that could be whatever book you choose, but like, I'll just use the Bible as mine. Have you ever opened it up and read? There are things that I've opened up in that book and read as an adult that I never knew growing up as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second here, right? But I never gave it a chance. I have this conversation with individuals who don't believe in a higher power. Cool. If I was to take the Bible, throw it away, take all your stories about God or whatever, the creator, and throw it away, right? I was to just walk outside right now and look around. Look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the birds, look at the animals, look at everything, right? And go, yeah, I think this was intelligently designed. By who or what is irrelevant, but it was intelligently designed. Yeah, I can figure that out without having a book. I can figure that out without having somebody tell me a story, right? it looks intelligently designed. It feels intelligently designed. The human eyeball, how it works, how we can't even replicate anything close to that with technology, screams intelligent design. All of it is intelligent design. Now, what you want to choose for that, whoever that is, to be an whoever the designer is, that's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it screams intelligent design.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, I don't just learn, right? To learn.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's something that you want to pursue or look at, like anything, if you want to learn more about, you have to go and look and do your own research, right? That's how you find it.
Well, I think you answered it with putting in the effort, right? Because
Yes.
it's an interesting thing because more and more people are becoming less and less faith-based. I myself right now am not at, the highest level of faith that I've had. And it's interesting, though, because so many great minds and great people have believed in this thing, and this thing has had a huge impact on their life, and a lot of them have credited who they are to this thing, but no one seems to be that interested in it, which is weird to me because
Great point.
Because you'd think, okay, here's all these people throughout history, and it's a lot of people had some sort of faith that impacted them. Maybe it's worth at least a minimal amount of investigation. And in my experience, like you said, when I actually put out that effort and do investigate, open something up, read it, ponder it, whether that's through prayer or just meditation, it leaves an impact.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's how you discover the truth is, through that investigation, that search.
Can I share something with you?
Yeah, of course.
You know why my opinion. Do you know why I think people don't look, they don't investigate?
Because they feel guilty? Or
Close.
they know,
You're close.
Like they know deep down that what they're doing maybe is wrong.
The accountability piece.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to look
You're
at them.
spot
Yes.
on.
Nobody wants to look at themselves and be like, what I'm doing, again, to whatever standard you set yourself, am I doing what I need to be doing at that standard? No? Oh, wait, no. I don't want to. And I think it's, wait a minute, if I have to believe in this, X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, whatever that faith base is, there's standards. Oh, I don't want to hold myself to those. So therefore, I'm just going to dismiss it. And I can do my own thing. The accountability piece.
Well, it's just easier. It's less friction, living in denial rather than confronting. Because, if you're reading, the Bible or something, then whether you say, oh, I'm going to adhere to all these standards or not, you're going to be thinking, you're going to be self-reflecting while you read, because a lot of things that it talks about would make you think that way. And it's just easier. People don't want to do that these days. Well, it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Well, the analogy I like to use is it's like you get a speeding ticket on the freeway because you're driving 90 miles an hour. Well, speed limit's only 70. So he gives you a speeding ticket, and you walk into the courthouse, and you're like, well, I'm not paying this fine. And the judge says, well, why not? He goes, because I don't believe in the speed limits. Well, that's cool. You don't believe in the speed limits, but at the end of the day, here's your ticket, here's your fine. Right. You're paying it, right? It's like saying, well, I don't believe in the court system. I don't believe in you, judge. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'm just going to continue to, well, there's repercussions for that, right? Sure. And people just don't want to acknowledge that there is a judge or whatever, and that's fine, but like that's my viewpoint. That's the way I look at it. It's, you have to be humble and look at yourself and say, am I being a good person? Am I inwardly reflecting before I outwardly project? Right? Am I just being a good person? And if I'm not, most people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror because they're like, I'm ugly, right? I'm in that aspect, right? Of like my actions and my thought process and everything, nobody wants to take that in and be like, what can I do to change? And especially, well, hold on here. I'm never like, why would I want to follow these rules over here? Like, right? Oh, I'm set to a certain set of rules. I'm an adult. Who's going to tell me what to do, right? That's.
And there's just a certain level of denial, people hypothetically, sometimes literally, but they look in the mirror and I'm not sure. It's hard to be honest with yourself, you know.
Well, you know,
It's a hard thing to do.
I was watching. I think it was on YouTube yesterday. I was watching. They have these TikTok things that pop up suggestions, and I'm just watching some of these, and I'm like,
oh, is it like the YouTube quick videos?
yeah,
now?
but they are made from TikTok, right?
Right.
And I was just flipping through them, right? And because I'm curious, these young kids, I see them all. I just saw it when we were at before the hike, right? So I've got all my guys sitting there. They're on their phones and they're just watching TikTok videos. And I'm like, what? What is so interesting? So I'm watching some of these things, and I'm watching some of these girls get on there and just mind-boggling to me. It's like, what's your whole goal here? To get likes? Like what? How does that? I don't understand how that that helps anybody, right? It doesn't help anybody. One, it's keeping your attention on your phone, which you and I totally agree. Same, spot on, man. If people could just put those things down for a second and just interact like we're doing right now, I think the world would be a better place, right? I can read a text message 50 different ways when you send it to me.
Right.
Well, I can only
you can just call or
talk like we're doing right now, and I can gauge body language and all that stuff. I can gauge what you mean by that, right? I think we're getting. I don't know if we're so far away, but it seems like we're getting that way. Where communication, old school, is going to be a thing of the past. I think it's just going to be.
Oh, with COVID and everything, for sure. Right?
A
lot of people are probably communicating through masks, even if it's in person. And how do you have a conversation through a mask? I mean, you can't really do it, you know.
You know,
one
of the good things about COVID, though, see, again, I try to look at the positive on it. It forced families to interact with each other.
Right.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're stuck in this house, so what are we going to do now, right?
Kill each other.
Well, no, but like... No, but you're doing things that you probably weren't doing before, right? So like I think there is some positive to come out of that. I do, right?
Oh, totally.
You know, instead of just being like, we're locked in this house, you know, I can't go outside. Well, you weren't going outside to begin with. Be honest with yourself. You weren't going out there anyway.
On the social media thing, it's interesting because I use social media a fair bit. Mainly, one, I do try to share positivity, even though I don't think it's necessarily what gains most attention, because people like to share and click on things that make them feel a certain way, like uncomfortable, or, you know, being positive is not always going to get the most traction. But I like doing that, and then I use it a lot. So I see the benefit. You know, occasionally I'll get on Instagram or TikTok and I'll think, wow, there's amazing people out there doing amazing things, you know. But yeah.
But you're using it, but they're using it for the correct way.
Right. They're sharing a talent. Maybe
correct.
they're remixing a song, or they're, you know, they do something. If the only thing you do, and I don't say this to be mean, but
fan
if the
page,
only
fan page, or what's it called?
Oh, OnlyFans?
OnlyFans.
Oh, I was going to say, if the only thing you do is look beautiful, I don't know. It's tough. That's a fragile way to live your life. I would probably, I mean, granted, hey, I don't have GQ magazine hit me up.
Right.
So I come at it from a weird angle, but I think if you in my opinion, you're probably going to be more happy, or at least I am, if you have some sort of a passion or motive behind what you're doing, whether that's music, or maybe you're a therapist and you like talking about family health, or you're a teacher and you like math. If there's some sort of passion backing up what you do or what you share, I think that's good. And then in general, I think consuming social media beyond sharing, putting it out there, is 90% a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why TikTok's good. Good, why it's a genius app, but not good for society, is because it's short, 15-second videos, so that your brain, these kids, they get sucked into that thing. And as soon as you open the app, it starts playing a video. And so YouTube, I think, is a lot better. It's more intentional. You actually have to search for something, you click it, and you watch a 5, 10, 15-minute video, and then, at least for me, I kind of watch that and that was your phone. That's awesome.
Tony Montana.
That was
All right,
awesome. Yeah, Scarface, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I thought I put it on silent. Sorry.
No, that's good. I'm actually glad that a little comical relief. But we've been going for a while now already. But
Yeah.
you watch it and then you close it. So I don't know.
Hey,
Sometimes social media. Yesterday I shared a photo, and I honestly kind of hate posting on social media sometimes. I just don't.
Why? No. Why?
There's a certain level of just mild anxiety. Like I just don't. I just sometimes don't like it, and I sent the photo to. Also why is I have a hard time choosing what like my best work is. I kind of wish I could just go out and create and do the part that I love, and then like hand it to an assistant and say, okay, put this out to the world. You know what I mean? I like writing the copy. I like writing the words, but there's just something about social media.
You're also a humble dude too. So like when you're humble like that, right? You're not doing it obviously for the fame and glory, but like you're. I think you understand that when you post something out on the internet. I don't think a lot of younger kids realize this. When you post something on the internet, it is now subject for ridicule. It is subject for praise. It's subject for all of it. But once it's out there, man. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to get the positives and the negatives. And I think if you're not at the maturity level to understand that, right, and accept whichever one those are going to be, then I really don't think you should be posting anything. Yeah. But TikTok, to me, it's what is it, like average 15 seconds per video or something like that?
Well, that's the favorite short videos like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like what is that? What is that programming you to do? Right. Like it's like have a 15-minute or 15-second attention span. Like,
yeah, I know. Well, luckily the military. I mean, we have quite a lot of off electronic time, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, even my attention span, I think it's been impacted for sure. Like a movie, I'll watch a movie, and unless I force myself to put down my phone and focus on the movie, I'll get distracted and I'll open up my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's probably mail. We'll leave it.
Boy,
we'll
you
ignore
sure?
it.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Is it the government trying to get us?
Well, not yet, because we haven't started talking about any conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well, we've kind of, we've talked for a while. How long have we talked? I don't know exactly when we started.
I think it was like 10, 20 or something.
Okay, we've talked for a long time.
Yeah.
There's 3 questions I always like to ask at the end of every podcast.
But you can't ask me the 18-year-old one, though. I already answered that.
No, these are different.
Okay.
These are different.
Gotcha.
So I like asking 3 questions. But before I get to that, is there anything else you want to cover real quick or anything? Or are you pretty satisfied?
Yeah, I'm good. I was just looking forward to sitting down with you, man, and talk, because I know our time is probably going to be short, because I'm leaving, going somewhere else. You're getting out.
Yeah, we still got probably 4 months or so.
Yeah, but it's off and on. It's very spotty
Yeah.
with the training and everything else going on, plus my leave, plus I'm trying to buy a house,
right,
and move. So it's
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to I want to really do this podcast thing because it's probably one of the most rewarding things I've done on the internet. So once I get this setup thing worked out, I'm going to dial it in. Maybe we can run back one more before you head out.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk some conspiracies or something.
All right. Well, listen,
let's do that. We need to open up that
tinfoil.
Well, let's do it. I'm down for that.
Yeah. What's your 3 questions?
3 questions. First one, what is an experience that has formed you into the person you are today?
Time away. Time away from family. Right? For me to understand the importance of it.
That's a good answer. Who is someone who has positively impacted your life and why?
Jose Contreras. You know him.
Answer. I called
that
him.
That guy has the patience that I wish I had.
Yeah.
He is easily one of my top 5 leaders. And granted, he's the same rank as me, but I don't view him as that. I put him at a high standard. He's one. Ben Steele.
No, don't.
No, I'm serious, because you're a visionary, right? You're a go-getter, and you're not afraid to do it. And I just wish that people in society had that, and they could do it, because again, the world would be a better place. And then another one would be, I'm gonna leave it with those two, because the other ones because if I say that one, then I got to say another one. So I'll just put you both up there. There's quite a few of them, right? But I first ones that came to mind were you and Contreras.
I appreciate that, man. I definitely agree with Jose. Maybe not myself, but
Come on, give yourself
Jose
some credit.
awesome.
100%.
Last question. What is something that today you're working on to live a better life?
Ooh, I'd have to say I'm working on. Again, this is almost going to be like a lead up to the tinfoil hat stuff. But what I'm trying to do that's bettering my life is taking information and not and swishing it around my mouth a little bit before I swallow it. You I don't know. I don't care how you want to define that, but I'll watch somebody's opinion. I'll take that opinion or that information, compare it with my 41 years of life and what I've experienced, and then I will form my own conclusion. I'm trying to do that as I continue to get older. It's like I'm just not going to accept what someone tells me or what I'm seeing, right? I want it to investigate more, to one, validate that, or find out if it's bullshit.
Dave, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining on 168 Hours. I would tell people where to find you, but they can't find you. You're completely off social media and stuff.
Well, no, actually, I do have a Facebook page, but only because I have an Oculus, right? So, I got a virtual reality for my kids. So it's like you have to have a Facebook page for that.
Well, if you start a podcast or anything, I will help you on the platform side of it, and we can hype each other up. You can cover all the crazy stuff that I don't get into. And it could be a good.
So see, you're the Joe Rogan, and I'm going to be the Eddie Bravo. I can
yeah,
see that.
Let's do it.
So
let's
I'm
do
gonna
it.
Be saying things that you want me to say, but you can't talk.
There you go. I'll get the sponsors. No, just kidding.
No, pleasure. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Ben. Yeah, and if we ever get a chance to do this again, I'd love to.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening. This is 168 Hours. I'm your host, Ben Steele. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dave. Dave, thank you. Appreciate your time. Again, if you want to, help this grow, please just drop a comment, share with a friend or someone you love, and have a great day. This week, try to achieve something new. Try to achieve a goal. Try to improve. I know that you can. All right, thanks.